will be filmed in my car, but a new series called Train of Thought, where I come to y'all with more in-depth videos about education, sport, life, things like that. These would be more of my lengthy videos. A lot of times I have a lot of shorts on my YouTube channel and stuff, but I'm trying to tap in more with YouTube, you feel me? So this video today is gonna be where I explain what strength and conditioning is. And I got a lot of notes here I wanna give y'all, so y'all will see me looking at my phone, because a lot of people have a lot of misinformation based on social media and the internet and things like that. I'm gonna explain what it is, the difference between athlete strength and conditioning and adult strength and conditioning. And I'm also gonna touch base on why adult strength and conditioning is smarter training for adults moving forward. So as I said, most adults think strength and conditioning is either for professional athletes or high school athletes, collegiate athletes, or just another name for like just lifting weight. Both of these things are really wrong as far as like thought process, right? If you're an adult who wants to get strong, who wants to be athletic, be lean, and also pain-free and minimize injuries as you get older as much as possible, you also have a job, you have a family, real life stress, things like that, this video is gonna be for you, so stay tuned. So what is strength and conditioning? And I'm gonna give y'all the exact book definition from NSCA, who is the company that certifies people in strength and conditioning. So it's a systematic process of developing physical qualities like strength, power, speed, endurance, mobility, and resistance. So 6 different qualities here to improve your performance, movement, efficiency, and injury resistance, okay? In simple terms, it's training with intent. So it's not just going in the gym, doing 3 sets of this, 3 sets of that, maybe 4 sets of that. Is coming in with a plan, training with intent. It's not random workouts. It's not just lifting weights and chit-chatting for 8 minutes between sets, or just sweating until you're exhausted, all right? It's structured, it's progressive, it's purpose-driven. Every exercise, rep, and rest period is chosen for a specific reason here. And an important point, strength and conditioning applies to everyone, okay? Not just the athletes, but everyone. Athlete strength and conditioning. All right, which is traditionally strength and conditioning, or SNC, as we may refer to in the future of this video, come from sport, okay? So it was designed to improve on-field performance, get athletes peaked for their competition, and meet sport and position-specific demands. So athletes, they normally train around their game schedules, their season practices, and competitions, okay? So those are the different times. And then with SNC coach working specifically with athletes, recovery is assumed, because we have built-in recovery days, right? They normally have athletic trainers they can go to that SNC coaches work side by side, at least they should work side by side with, to understand where athletes at. And then they have a structured schedule as well. But at the end of the day, athletic SNC is about winning games, right? Having a winning season, staying healthy for that season, and also being the best version of you as an athlete. So if you're high school, you get collegiate offers, collegiate goes professional, things like that. And then if you're professional, you know, be the top of your game, be the best at your position, right? So now we'll switch, what is adult athletic training, okay? And now here's where things shift, where athletes were training for their sport. Adults are necessarily using those same athletic principles or athletic training principles, but it applies to your life. You're not training for a sports season. You're not training for competition. It's training for your life. So adult SNC is about moving better, getting stronger, staying lean and athletic, avoiding injuries as much as possible. You know, injury prevention is just, you can't 100% prevent injuries, but limiting injuries as much as possible, and performing well at work, at home, and then in your daily life. You know, there's a lot of guys, I'm 31 now, so, you know, a lot of guys my age and older and stuff, still trying to be active, playing flag football, playing soccer, basketball, these things like that. So training, strength and conditioning will help you be able to still do these things recreationally and not pay for it the next day. Athletes train for the season, adults train for decades. Remember that. All right, so training adapts to life stress, okay? Adults, let's be real, we don't recover as much as good as athletes do, okay? Not because the adults are weaker, but because life exists, okay? Adults have to account for their job, work-life balance. You have to account for kids. You'll have poor sleep. You'll have mental stress. You'll have limited time. So what it means that the volume and intensity are managed. The progress isn't forced. And then the training is flexible when life hits hard, right? So athletes training assumes the recovery, whereas adult training manages the recovery, okay? So if your program ignores stress outside the gym, it's incomplete. Having off days, having active recovery days, not just sitting around doing nothing, but active recovery, very low intensity. In my adult training program, I like to do high-low days. So on the low days, you're still getting work, but then it's still active recovery for your body, your CNS system, your central nervous system, things like that. So I like to follow the high-low day template. So when you look at the program, you're like, dang, it's 6 days a week, 5 days a week, but it's a high-low, right? So your body's not torched, okay? So movement qualities come first, right? With adult S&C, movement qualities come first, okay? Obviously in athletes, we want to work movement qualities, but we hone in a lot more with adults on this. So most adults don't have a strength problem. It's the movement problem. So common issues we see here and I see here is tight hips and ankles, desk job, limited thoracic mobility, which is upper back and spinal work, poor bracing. So engaging the core during exercises. The cue I like to give people is, you know, brace your core as if somebody's about to punch you in the stomach. You got to tighten it up to try to absorb that punch as best as possible, right? We're not boxers. So, and then asymmetries from years of repetitive movement. So you got to think about it. Our bodies adapt, man. Our bodies adapt. And that's why training programs, usually every 4 to 6 weeks, you go in and out of phases with your training program. At least you should have different phases in your training program because our bodies adapt to these things. If you're doing the same improper movement year after year, of course your back is gonna hurt. Of course your knees are gonna hurt. This is why, you know, I always try to preach strength and conditioning training over things like Orange Theory, F45, BFT. I actually have a client that went to BFT and strained his calf really bad because of the fact that they trying to focus on group. Not saying you can't do group. However, there isn't a strong focus on proper warm-up, proper technique. They're just trying to get you through the workout, get you sweating. Hey, you burn this many calories. This is your, I think Orange Theory does like splat score and all this other crap. You know, they just push all of that stuff in that narrative. Whereas they're not focusing on different things like maybe his calf didn't get hurt if they would have did some extensive plyometrics during their warm up to activate the ankle and foot complex in the calves or things like this. You know what I mean? Before having him do, I believe he said he was doing like sled pushes into sprints, right? Heavy sled pushes and then ran sprints back and forth. Like, yeah. So these repetitive movements and not warming up the body properly, this leads to asymmetries from years of those same repetitive movements, right? And then adult strength and conditioning, it prioritizes squatting well, hinging well, pushing and pulling things with control, and then always trying to get full ranges of motion and always testing those ranges of motion. One thing I absolutely love is doing a plate elevated push-up or dumbbell push-ups and trying to get your chest all the way to the ground. You get that full stretch and you're working that muscles, those muscles so well up in here. It's absolutely insane. And then turn around, do that for like an activation, and then turn around and try to bench. Oh man, you're in for one. So when we're doing these things, squatting well, hinging well, pushing and pulling with control, getting the full range of motion, this doesn't mean that we're doing light weights consistently week after week after week. We're gonna progress the load, but you earn the load through movement quality, right? So you could go ahead and put 315 on the bar and bench. What might happen? You might tear your pec, you might have shoulder soreness, this, that, and the third, and it's gonna suck. You could do 225 for reps, right? But how do you feel after you do those 225 for reps? Because you're not warming up, activating correctly. And strength and conditioning focuses on all of these things, right? And then strong positions build strong bodies. So if you're able to go in those positions and be strong, there's no weakness, there's no aches and pains, then soon, lo and behold, you're gonna be able to lift that 315 with no issues. You will get there. Joint health is performance variable, okay? So for adults, joints are often the limiter rather than the muscles or the strength, right? So adult strength and conditioning intentionally trains the tendons, ligaments, connective tissue, and range control. So we do these things with athletes, and nowadays it's even big on athletes. Like you have tempo work, so eccentrics. So let's say you're squatting. So you got 5 seconds to go down, boom, you hit the bottom, maybe hold for a second, then you come back up, okay? That 5 second hold with that load on your back, whether you're back squatting, front squatting, and that's gonna allow you to build that connective tissue, build that ligament, build the tendon, and then isometric hold. Taking that squat, 5 seconds down, hold, or maybe going down and then holding for 5 seconds, isometrically, and then coming back up. So these things, shout out to Cal Dietz. He's the one that really put this in the strength and conditioning with his type of program he did at University of Minnesota. And then you have unilateral training. So bilateral is doing a normal squat, whereas unilateral training will do like a pistol squat or a single leg squat. These things not only train that leg individually, but it helps with, like we said, those tendons, those ligaments, connective tissue, and controlling the end range of things. And then smart volume cycling, right? So different phases calls for different things, right? So we're not just 5x5 for 10 weeks straight, right? And just strength training for year after year after year, like most people do. Oh, I'm bulking for 2 years and then I'm gonna cut. Like, that's not what happened. So doing these things is not gonna be rehab. It may be for some people, they may feel that way, but it's not rehab, it's performance longevity, okay? If your joints can't control or support your strength won't last. And your strength won't last if you're injured and you're taking months and months off. It takes about 30 to 60 days, maybe just 30 days for your strength to actually start decreasing. So strength for longevity. You know, as adults, we still want to be strong. We still want to be able to do certain things. But the question changes from what's your max into how strong can you stay for the next 20, 30 years. The strength training within S&C emphasizes submaximal loads, technical proficiency, oh my gosh, rep quality, and multiple rep ranges. Submaximal loads, so about anywhere between 50 to about 90%, right, of your max. And there's different ways you can mess with the rep ranges to be able to achieve these things, to continue to maximize strength and also maximize your lean muscle gains. Making sure you're technically sound in the exercises, okay? Most people that do like high rocks, bodybuilding, all this stuff, people are just trying to push the weight, so you end up getting injured, okay? And then the strongest adults aren't the ones lifting the heaviest today. They're the ones that's still lifting when they're 40, in their 50s, and even beyond, right? I've been at the gym where I've seen people who took certain things seriously and they're exercising well into their 50s doing 225. And they look good, you know what I mean? They took the measures nutritionally and within the gym to protect themselves, and they're still able to do 3 sets of 8 to 12, 225 benching, right? They're still able to squat, ATG really, really well. Strategic conditioning. So now we get to the conditioning part of strength and conditioning. So we don't want to make it a punishment for adults, right? There's different ways to implement conditioning. So you're not going to just run on the treadmill for 15 minutes. You're not just going to do cardio for 30 minutes straight without having an absolute reason to do so. It's about aerobic capacity, right? Heart health, recovery enhancement, and repeat effort ability, okay? How many times can you repeat that same effort? So like, let's say you do the assault bike or treadmill 10 seconds as hard as you can go and then rest for 60 seconds, right? And maybe you do that for about 6 to 12 sets, depending on where your conditioning level is, right? A S&C coach should help you build up to that capacity, right? Aerobic capacity, okay? And then there's less emphasis on daily burnout circuits, random high intensity, just chaos, just doing random HIIT workouts. And then sweat equals success. The sweat does not determine your success. I have a client who sweats profusely after just doing a warm-up, and we're just doing mobility movements, right? But the body's working in those mobility movements that his body's not used to, so his body's sweating. That's effort, right? We could call the workout then. If we're gonna say sweat equals success, I could just sit there and be like, all right, hey, that's the end of the workout. Nah. And then the key idea here is conditioning should improve your training, not sabotage it, okay? So yes, if your body's not used to that type of conditioning, like 6 sets of 10-second sprints or 10 seconds on the assault bike as hard as you can go, then yes, you're going to be sore because your body's not used to that, right? However, the purpose, like we said, purpose-driven, the purpose is to build that capacity so that you can handle those things a lot better. Athleticism is maintained. So adults don't stop being athletic because their age, it's because you're not doing anything athletic, right? So I know, and I play flag and pick up basketball, and I've even played soccer with a bunch of people that are like, hey, let me go play in the soccer league, this flag league, let me go play some touch football, the turkey bowl, that, things like that. And they're like, oh, my body's wrecked, tore an ACL, broke my ankle, shoulders jacked up, different things like that. And it's because they're not doing anything to prepare your body. You know, just sprinting, even doing just hill sprints and working that into your regimen is so amazing for your body. First of all, sprints, in some cases, people would argue, sprints is like probably the number one thing to strengthen your hamstrings instead of just going to go do an RDL or a seated leg curl. If you run sprints at top speed at least twice a week, you are set to not pull your hamstring if you go sprint and play flag football, right? However, doing things like plyometrics laterally and unilateral plyometrics and bilateral plyometrics and all these different things within your workouts help you from messing up your ankles, knee injuries, all that stuff. It actually helps you prepare to still be able to be athletic. So here in my notes, it says, I put, we age because they stop moving athletically, right? And so adult SEC keeps sprint mechanics. We scale it. Obviously, you're not going to do it as hard or as often as a athlete does, but you scale it. You do jumping and landing mechanics, okay? So jumping, box jumps, hurdle hops, things like that. And then you can do depth drops where you drop from a box and land, stick that landing, right? That helps you absorb. Jumping is you putting force. Landing is you absorbing that force, okay? Rotational power. You could do rotational jumps. You could do banded rotations, cable rotations, you know, things like this to help you build rotational power. Taking the big med ball, throwing it into the wall, right? And building your coordination. All these things together help build your coordination and stay athletic for as long as possible. Athletic movement protects your joint. It maintains the speed that you have, or you can even gain speed, and it preserves confidence, right? So you have the confidence like, yeah, I'm about to go play flag with the boys. I'm gonna go play pickup with the boys. I'm dunking again. And all these different things, I'm smooth with it. Like, you can do the things maybe you used to do, you could do them now. So you don't train athleticism to look athletic. You train it to stay capable. However, with the proper nutrition, which will be another video, you're able to look athletic. That low body fat like DK Metcalf has, things like that. So the real KPI, or the real tracking measurement you want with adult strength and conditioning, is sustainability overall, right? We can get into muscle gains, body fat percentage, but the real KPI you want is sustainability, okay? Adult strength and conditioning isn't about 12-week transformations, all right? That happens along the way, but it's not the main focus, okay? It's about consistency, injury-free training, confidence in movement, and long-term progress, right? So within that 12 weeks of doing a strength and conditioning program, there's different phases. About every 4 weeks, there's a different phase, right? And within that phase, you can get stronger, you can build muscle, and lose body fat if your nutrition coincides with your training and your recovery. Recovery is very important. Your sleep and how well you're taking care of your body, whether it's getting massages, using leg sleeves, whatever you need to do. Main thing here is sleep, all right? So the best program is a program that you can recover from, you can stick to, and that it fits your lifestyle, okay? And I'm giving more of these things, Train for Thought, man. I'm doing it on my social media as well as my YouTube channel, okay? As I said, I'm trying to bring more of these types of videos to educate y'all, man, and let y'all know that, like, you don't have to feel like I'm 25 and breaking down, I'm 30 and breaking down, or, you know, I'm 35 but I feel 55, right? We can still go have fun, we can still go shoot hoops, we can still go play flag and soccer and baseball and all these things and join these leagues and still perform really well and feel confident about ourselves, you know what I mean? Build our testosterone up and be great, right? So I built this community called Unpeak because you're never at your end. So if you want to see how I apply these programs for the adult, I have a description below. You get this first 7 days free, programming every week. You get to message me and others within the community. The app allows you to compete with others and see if you could push yourself. Friendly competition, right? We got mobility, we got jumping, we got sprinting, and we got strength training and conditioning, all right? So I appreciate y'all, man, watching this video, taking the time out. Please like, comment anything below if you have any further questions. I would love to interact with everybody, man. Please share it with anyone that you think needs to hear this or needs to be educated on this, man. I want to reach out to as many people as possible and help as many people as possible. Whether you sign up for Unpeaked or not, this video is here to help and educate you either way. My name is Coach Hassan. This is Strength Elite Performance. Peace.